Hidden among the stunning geology of the Onkaparinga region sleeps a collection of historical buildings that can be found dated back to the mid to late 1800s. These buildings have stood the test of time and lasted decades in the open elements. Some of these buildings can be found standing among the rolling hills and southern pastoral areas of the Onkaparinga region. After serving the European pioneers of the region for many years, there came a time when these buildings no longer served a purpose and were left to deteriorate. Fortunately, some of these buildings have found passionate community members who have seen potential in restoring and repurposing these buildings. Come with us on an historical journey to meet 3 ambitious owners who have transformed derelict buildings into stunning practical spaces that can be enjoyed for many more years to come. This is the 2020 City of Onkaparinga Virtual Heritage Tour.
Hi, I'm Anne.
And I'm Johnny, and welcome to our 1887 Tatachilla Winery stables. It all started in 2015 when we came down to McLaren Vale looking for a weekender, and we walked onto this wonderful 2-acre block and into the stables. We were hooked, weren't we, Anne?
Yep, we were looking for a little weekender and we got this thing. Of course, we didn't know what was involved. We knew it was heritage listed, but we didn't know we'd need heritage planning. We knew we needed an architect. That was about it.
Yes.
We knew what we wanted, and then the journey began.
Here's an absolutely amazing building that looked for all the world as though it was in grave danger of falling down. The roof was in a terrible state. Sun and rain and all sorts of things were coming through there.
Pigeons.
Pigeons, yes, for sure. And we felt that we could save it. Part of the fun and excitement is actually being able to achieve that goal, to save this place for many, many years to come, I think. Yeah. So through here, we've got what we call the cozy room. And one of the most exciting moments was when a complete tin cover on that window frame there fell off, or at least I pulled it off, and we discovered that we had a beautiful view. But at that stage, we were much lower down, so we could hardly see through the window, and the builder suggested that we raise the floor, and it's worked really well.
Getting the plans through council was actually faster than people had led us to believe. All the way along, I mean, we met Andrew very early in the piece, and he gave us advice even before we got started. Yeah. And he helped us along the way. When it came time to doing the windows, he said something that he said quite frequently, which was this had to end up being a home. So they would make any accommodations that they could to help us change it from a stable to a home. Working with the Heritage Council was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. We accepted when we bought the place that we couldn't change anything from the street. So anything that was visible from the street, we knew we couldn't change.
One of the wonderful features of the building is these beautiful Oregon trusses. And for a while it looked as though we were not going to be able to keep them, mainly because they're too far apart for modern building standards. However, we struck lucky and found a wonderful engineer, Ron Selth, and he gave us a certificate of adequacy. They're adequate to hold the roof up and so on. Well, they've done that for 100 and something years. We are surprised that they couldn't continue to do that.
Very early in the piece, it was explained to us that whatever we did had to be done with the original materials, and anything that was original had to be treated in its original way. Anything that we added had to be clearly new. Yes. So anything that was added anywhere couldn't be added in an old style, it had to be a completely new style. So where you see something new, it's evidently new, it's not pretending to be old.
Like this shelving behind us, that was made from the fascia boards that went all the way around this building, and that was beautiful timber, but it had to be replaced. And wow, it's made
been making furniture
with it ever since.
But coming to the council, I think if you're going to go into a project like this, before you do it, find out what the council are going to say about what you can and can't do. There's no point going into it wanting certain things and they're not going to be compliant with what the council requires. And at the end of the day, the council's, I think, probably trying to do the best that they can to retain the visual history, so passers-by see what it was actually like, not some modern rendition of it. So I would say, find out what you can and can't do, go in with your eyes wide open, which I think we did. And if you do love an old building, and you should be respectful to the old building, let it talk to you. And I think if you do let the building talk to you, then you're not going to have many run-ins with the Heritage Council, because it's in their best interest as well to be in sympathy with the building. Take advice, do take advice. Go out and have a look and see what people have done with similar things. I think that would be my advice. I think the council will work with you, not against you, if you let them.
I'm Kirsten Halada, and this is the original Riley House in Wollonga. The original cottage was built in the 1840s, early 1840s, by an Irish labourer family that were involved in the slate mines, and in that road there were really a series of 4 Irish cottages that had Irish labourers living in there. And the thing that attracted me about the cottage really was that it's rare for those types of residences to be restored and written about and kept in memory, because usually it's wealthy settlers, who are remembered. And for me, it's fascinating to actually touch a piece of history that belonged to basic labourers, and the idea of, they were some of the first settlers in this area, and they would have come here when there was nothing, and they really built this cottage with their bare hands and very basic tools, and that's what I found fascinating. So we lived in the Riley House we bought it in 2011 and renovated the cottage and built an extension and lived there until 2019. I remember one of the windows being held together with bandages. I mean, it was just really in a bad state. And then we walked into the kitchen, and in the kitchen there was this massive fireplace, and that was really the thing that grabbed me. And I just thought, underneath all of this, there has got to be sort of a jewel, there's got to be a heart here. And then we thought about, okay, we'll restore the building and build a separate house. And the more we thought about it, the more we thought, well, really, we want, we want to restore something and then live in it. If it's going to be separate, you're probably not going to spend time in it. So over time, it kind of developed into, we wanted the old part of the house to be the heart of the house. So that became, the idea of having a kitchen in there that then led into a modern building. And I think that was the key. That was, really, I think the best thing that we did, because it created a home, and you cannot build something like that new. You can't recreate that feeling. Tried to change as little as possible, and where we did change things, we tried to sort of show what was there before. So we left some of the cornerstones exposed. We also put in these honesty windows. The laundry walls were rendered in mud, and instead of just covering them with lime render, because we couldn't leave them where we were, we left a little honesty window over one section so that you could actually see what it looked like before. And they've turned into some of the nicest features in the house that people comment on and love. The process with the council heritage department was fantastic. It was really great. Some of the best ideas for building the extension came from the heritage architect. There was a limestone workshop that was put on by the council. There was a dry stone wall building workshop. I did all of those workshops. That was really helpful. There actually weren't as many restrictions to restoring the building as I expected. It was really keeping the external part of the cottage in its shape. But I think that ultimately, if you have keeping heritage alive at heart, then there aren't really, I didn't find there were any hurdles working with the council. If anything, we worked with a number of architects and builders and really struggled with the design for the extension, and it was the heritage architect at the council that actually came up with the best solution.
I'm Alan Varney, and this is Victor's Place. It's also the home of Varney Wines. We've got our winery here, and our cellar door is located within this beautiful old restored venue. I was a winemaker in McLaren Vale for over a decade. Worked at a few places over there, and I'd lived in Port Noarlunga with my wife, Catherine. Every day for 10 years, I would drive past this place on my way to and from work, and it always appeared to me, you come around this bend in Victor Harbour Road, and you felt like you were entering McLaren Vale. We call it the gateway to McLaren Vale. And for me, it was that point where you leave the suburbs behind, you leave the expressway behind, and suddenly this beautiful rural aspect opens up. We've got the first vineyards of the Vale just on the horizon. You can see them from where I'm sitting in our dining room. And we always had the feeling that someone needs to do something with this place. We'd speak to other locals about it, and everyone said, oh yeah, that rundown, dilapidated old shed. So in 2015, we knew that we were on a pathway to creating our own wine brand. Really wanted to start Varney Wines and needed a home for it. And this is just the perfect place. We knew we had this amazing vision. We knew what we wanted to achieve, we knew where we wanted to go with it, but we didn't know how to make it possible. Where do you go from a dilapidated old, a derelict shearing shed that was built in the 1870s with no power, no sewerage, no utilities whatsoever, to a fully functioning restaurant, commercial kitchen, winery, there's a brewery built here as well. We didn't know how to get to that end stage. We went to council. We put together a bit of a rough plan of what we had in mind, and we were amazed at how much support we received. We almost expected to be brushed off or told that something was going to be impossible or there were too many hoops to jump through. And I won't say it was the easiest process, but we always felt like there was an amazing amount of support from council. Andrew Stevens, who's the heritage architect, he was very influential, and he really shared the dream with us and knew where we wanted to get to, but also was always there making sure that we weren't going to strip away the natural historic beauty of the place. So plans went back and forth, and I think you do have to understand when you try and do something like this that it's not always going to be easy, and there's certain things that you need to work around, but we always felt like there was a helping hand. There were hoops to jump through, but we were sort of told how to jump through them. This is an old 1870s limestone shearing shed. It would have been built by hand back then. Just next to this building, there's an in-ground rainwater tank, which again would have been dug out by hand in the 1870s. It was part of a much larger farming estate, which was owned by the Dungy family. They built a beautiful house as well, which overlooks old Noarlunga. If the walls could talk, I can't imagine how many amazing stories they'd be able to tell us. When we first moved in, there were piles of old tools. It was a dirt floor. You could still smell the lanolin in the place. We've managed to restore above the old bar some of the original timbers, and the original pulley that ran the shearing clippers is all here as well. It's got an amazing feel. It's a very calm place. But yeah, the history, it's palpable. It's a great feeling here. We were lucky enough when we purchased the property to have our amazing friend Andrew Ross. He's a stonemason, and we invited him out before we signed on the dotted line and said, Andrew, is this possible? Can we save this? Because there were huge holes in the walls, the entire roof was caved in. We really didn't know if it was salvageable or not. And he took a look around and he said, this is an amazing building. This is exactly what I love to do. I love saving these things. I want to do it for you, but we need to do it now. Another 2 or 3 winters, a bit more rain ingress, there was a bit of water damage through the place, and it would have started to really collapse in on itself and would have been beyond the state where we could have saved it. So we knew that time was of the essence, and we just wanted to be very sensitive to what we had here and not lose it. I think it would be quite easy to undertake a project like this and try and do too much, try to modernise too much. And I think you'd lose a lot of that character. So we had a great group of people around us who could really help to maintain the historic feel of the place. Another area where the council was very helpful was, of course, the Heritage Development Grant. We did manage to secure that, and again, I was amazed at how helpful and supportive everyone was, guiding us through the application process. It can be a little bit daunting when you're applying for grants, but it's certainly worth doing, and it was a big help when we put the initial work into the place. It's fantastic. We've had an amazing amount of support from locals. Everyone comes in here. We get the same line that everyone says, I drive past this place all the time, and it's quite difficult not to. We're right on Victor Harbour Road. It's quite a high profile destination, but the amount of people that have come in from the day we opened a couple of years ago and still continuing to come in. And it's really nice to share this place with everyone. I feel like it was lost for decades and decades as it was sitting here in an empty paddock, but the view is fantastic. We love having people come in and join us, and we're starting to get some real praise for what we're doing. The restaurant's kicking some goals. We have an amazing team here. Our head chef is really on the ball, locally sourced produce, everything's very seasonal. He's matching it with my wines, and there's a nice little bit of rivalry, I suppose. He comes out with an amazing dish and I come out with a wine that I've made, and it's really fun to pair them and match them back and forth. We're brewing beer here as well, which people are really enjoying, and it's a nice point of difference. And we did just win the 2021 James Halliday Companion Best New Winery in Australia award. So I think we're doing a few things well, and it's really fantastic to share it with everyone that comes in to see us.
City of Onkaparinga is committed to the conservation of built heritage and incorporates statutory protections along with a grant scheme and a heritage advisory service. Heritage grants are open all year round, subject to availability of funds. Council also organises a heritage event workshop each year and heritage awards every 2 years. For more information on heritage related matters, please visit www.onkaparingacity.com/built heritage.